In several interviews, Paul McCartney was asked for the possibility of the Beatles reunion. Here is the answer he responded to the question of the band reunion.
The group broke up. It wasn't particularly between me and John, it was just between all of the group. I mean, you know, we started off as lads from Liverpool and all got together. We had a great success and kind of all enjoyed doing it. And in the end, though, we were always, if we argued, we'd always argue about music or something like that. It would never be a really sort of big argument, because pretty much everything was taken care of in confidence and stuff. But I think the crunch came when what we started to argue about was business, the Apple business. And you get one viewpoint from so-and-so and so-and-so's lawyer and so-and-so's, and everyone was represented on all these sides. And I think that just when the game changed to a money game instead of a music game, it was one we didn't have a framework to exist in.
Are there any circumstances under which you and the...
I suppose if the Beatles, all the other three, were really wild, keen to do it, and it looked like a real great thing to go and do, then there's like a real slim chance that I'd kind of say, yeah, okay.
Since you and Ringo are going to record together, is it going to be so much of an extra effort to bring in the other couple of guys as well? You know what I'm talking about.
No. See, the thing is, like, for a long time now, you know, the Beatles have been split up. And just the way things are, like, certain ones of us like playing together and stuff, but for instance, I don't think John would ever be interested in kind of getting the group back together again. And the four of us individually wouldn't really be interested in doing it, just because you can't reheat a souffle, as someone once said. No, I don't think like this. I definitely know it's not on, you know, and it gets a bit boring every kind of few weeks, kind of telling someone, you know, this. But I understand you asking that, but it's not anything that would ever happen.
Does the media campaign to get the Beatles to reunite annoy you?
Yeah, a bit, you know, but there's nothing you can do about it, so I don't get really annoyed. It's just one of those things, you know, when you reach a certain level of fame. Like with the Beatles, you know, once we split up, there were just a lot of people offering a lot of money and saying, we'll get back together for me then. But the trouble is that if you were even going to consider doing something like that, you'd have to have a really great enthusiasm within the group, because, you know, you can't just start things just for some money and go and do it. Not a thing like that, anyway. So the missing factor is the enthusiasm at the moment. Which is fair enough, you know. I mean, we did our bit. I think the four of us would probably just prefer to like leave it as it was, and leave the whole story intact rather than sort of coming back and doing some disastrous reunion show, you know, like.
Paul, that you're probably very tired of Beatles questions, but even if we never have this long-anticipated and eagerly awaited reunion that the whole world hopes for with the Beatles, do you think that there would ever be a chance of another Lennon McCartney song, maybe just one song from you guys?
Well, I wouldn't say there would be, actually, because the last time I spoke to John, I just happened to ask him about whether he was writing songs and stuff, just out of my own curiosity. And he's told me he's kind of finished doing that, and he's not really into that.
Did you move away from the Beatles in a sense?
Well, it wasn't just me. All of us did that.
Yeah.
It was a kind of reaction we all had. George made an album called All Things Must Pass, which is a big successful thing. When he toured, he didn't do any Beatles stuff. John, when he did any concerts, it was all Instant Karma, stuff with Yoko. We all left all the Beatles stuff alone because it reminded us of the pain of the divorce kind of thing. And also, obviously, the other question in all of our minds was, is there life after the Beatles? You know, or do we have to be Beatles all our lives?
One countdown viewer, a young viewer, wanted to know if the other Beatles were still alive.
Well, your guess is as good as mine, actually.
Do you ever see any of the other three guys?
No, they are actually alive and kicking, and all very well, and doing their own thing, enjoying themselves.
I was very shocked, you know. It's terrible news.
How did you find out about it?
I got a phone call this morning.
From whom?
From a friend of mine.
Are you planning to go before the funeral?
I don't know yet.
Have you discussed the death with any of the other Beatles?
No.
Do you plan to?
Probably, yeah.
What were you recording today?
I was just listening to some stuff, you know, I just didn't want to sit at home.
Why?
Look, I didn't feel like it.
What time did you hear the news?
This morning sometime.
Very early?
Yeah. Don't know, yeah? Drag, isn't it? Okay, cheers. Go on. Bye, guys.
A drag isn't how the world will see it, nor can there ever be any more talk of the Beatles getting together again.
Did John's death in any way change the way Paul McCartney views his celebrity status?
Well, something like that obviously like it's very final. To me, it was sort of end of an era. Sort of really wrapped up the Beatle thing, kind of thing, for me. Because there was always, although the four of us never really thought we were going to get back together. The press would always ask us if we were, and people on the street. But we pretty much knew we wouldn't get back together because I think we really felt we'd done it.
As far as we're concerned, there can't be a Beatles reunion because John died, and that was the Beatles, you know. I don't think any of us would be interested in substituting someone for John, even Julian, you know, which has been suggested.
You know, the Beatles has to have John. You can't do the Beatles without John. It's a stupid idea.
Not the Beatles.
And you can't put Julian in that position. You know, some people say Julian Lennon
or Elvis Costello.
Or Elvis Costello. No way. No, I mean, you know, I nothing against them, but John was John, you know, and that's the Beatles.
It wouldn't be the Beatles. It'd be a group reunifies or something. It just wouldn't be the Beatles. There can't be a Beatles reunion.
Did the two of you ever talk about, you know, about the getting back together? I mean, what's the myth and the reality of that?
The nearest it ever came was Saturday Night Live did as a spoof. They made an offer, and Lorne Michaels, who was producing it, I know quite well now, he went to the accounts department of NBC. And he said, I can get the Beatles reunion. So they said, what will you pay? And the guy said, well, the standard fee for live acts is so-and-so. And it was like, you know, $24,
Right.
34 cents.
Right.
So they used it as a skit. And they said, if you're out there, Beatles, come on, NBC's offering 24. And John and I happened to be in his house in the Dakota while this was going on. And we said, come on, should we go? Yeah. It's just down the road. And for half a second, we nearly went.
Wow.
But that was like as near as it got, you know. Yeah. Money wasn't good enough. But there is a film that we might get round to in a couple of years that we've been meaning to do. And there might possibly be some involvement there where we play together, me, George and Ringo. Now, we wouldn't call it a Beatles reunion, but you probably would.
So the Beatles reunion, what happened was that we're doing a TV series about the history of the Beatles, maybe 10 parts, and they're working on that now. And me, George and Ringo are helping them try and get the facts right, you were talking about, and we do some new interviews for that. And the idea came up along the way that maybe if, you know, in films sometimes you need a little bit of music. If there's a little car scene going along, you need a little bit of incidental music. So I thought it might be good if me, George and Ringo maybe made a little piece of music, maybe just an instrumental, just something simple. So we've become a little interested in that idea. Now, when I say that, people say, this means the Beatles are getting together. It's not the Beatles. It's only 3/4 of the Beatles.